Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name's Nick. In today's video, I want to talk about something that happened to us for the very first time and what I did and maybe what you could do to, one, prevent it, but if it does happen, find your gecko. Because we had a gecko get out, but luckily we found it, and I'm going to go through all that right now in this video. Alright, so the gecko that got out, unfortunately, was Pam. Now, if you watched my last video, you know that Pam recently went to the vet, so if you want to learn up on Pam and where she's at, go ahead and watch that video. I can tell you though that these two aren't really correlated. Yeah, they're not really correlated. She was only out of her tank for like maybe 8 hours. Like, it was not very long at all. And how do I know that? It's because she wasn't dehydrated at all. And she looked fine when I picked her up. It almost looked like she climbed out of her tank, fell asleep, and then I woke her up. Like, that's what it looked like. Because, one, she was not very far. And two, she just looked fine. She looked like she just took a nap. Let me show you what happened. And then I'll show you where I found her. And then we'll just kind of talk about what you can do if something like that does happen to you. Alright, so here's what happened. So as many of you know, and I did a video on this, we make our own tubs here. We keep our geckos in, I think these are like 116 quart tubs or something like that. It's a 30-gallon tub. And what I did this time is I cut holes in the top instead of the sides. One, just thinking maybe better ventilation, you know, yada, 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 not a big deal. But as you can see here, it appears Pam was climbing on top of the lid, like so, and then it gave way. And then somehow, so now this is kind of the weird part, and the kind of part that I don't really understand. So the way her tank is set up, there is no way for her to just have a ledge that leads right up. She would have had to have either jumped up and climbed out. She would either had to like jump up, rip it, fall, then climb back, jump up again, and then get out. Or she just would have had to have been climbing like on the ceiling of this thing. So either way, I'm not really sure, because it's not really easy for them. I kind of strategically lay out all these tanks so that it's not really easy for them to get to that center point. Because when you got heavy-bodied geckos that are 50, 60 grams, you know, like Gloria is here and like Pam is, you're kind of risking it with just hot glue. But with that said, with the risk of it, we've had our geckos, some of our geckos in tubs now for probably 8, 9 months, 10 months or so, and this is the first time. Even with our leechies, this is the first time anything's happened, so I think it was more of a user error on my part of not putting down enough hot glue. Now, you can see here too, that at some point I put Gorilla duct tape on the other side of this, and that was because that side had fallen down a little bit too. So at that point, I probably should have just re-glued the whole thing, but clearly I was being lazy. I slapped down some Gorilla glue and I called it, or some Gorilla duct tape, and called it a day. I mean, obviously that was the wrong decision. So I guess number one way to prevent this, don't cut corners. Not a great idea. So she did get out, but like I said, it wasn't for very long, because luckily, I had just watered them and fed them that night. And then the next morning, it was a Saturday, so I came in to just, you know, come in to film, because I usually film on Saturdays, and I came in just kind of check on everybody, think about what I'm going to film for the day, yada, yada, yada. And at that time, I was debating on doing something about Pam, because at that time, that was right before she went to the vet. So that was about a week and a half before she was going to the vet. And at that time, I was kind of already considering, like, I think I need to talk about what could be going on with her. But then I was also like, and then I ultimately decided I should wait for a professional, you know, somebody who does this for a living, instead of me just being stupid enough to film myself talking about geckos, just to talk about what I think could be happening. So I pulled her out thinking I was going to do that video, but when I pulled out the tub, I noticed it was open. So, like I said, there was a lucky sequence of events there for me to where she wasn't out for very long, and I had a really good chance at catching her, you know. So But now what I want to do is I want to show you guys actually where she was. All right, guys, so this is where we keep our baby bins, right here. And you can see they're actually 4 high, like so. What she did is she climbed back there, and she slept at the bottom of the floor behind everybody. And her tub is right here. So you can see, don't mind the floor, it's a disaster. Right there, you can see I spill Crested Gecko diet sometimes, so not great, but we're just gonna ignore that for now. But her tub is right here, and then you can see our baby tubs are right here. So that's why I was saying she didn't go very far. So I woke up, and at that point I'm freaking out. I look everywhere in this room because since we have these racking systems now, I was worried she got under one of the racks or she's in between one of the levels. So I start pulling out all the tubs, I'm moving the racks, and I'm just like, oh my God, where could she have gone? Because for me, I figured she climbed out and went behind like somewhere darker because we have curtains and things like that. So I'm like telling Megan, I'm like, oh my God, get up, you gotta come help me. And at that moment, it kind of dawned on me, I was like, why don't I check the corners and crevices where she could be, which, since this is a gecko room, it's already pretty compacted and everything's kind of built for the gecko space. So moving stuff is not ideal. It's not part of the game plan, That's not something I like to do very often because I like to sit it, forget it, and then move on. So luckily, I had the idea to check behind the babies, and honestly too, that was just me being like wishfully, hopefully lazy and being like, man, I hope she's just behind here so I don't have to tear everything apart. Got lucky. She was right behind there, didn't have to tear anything apart, and she seemed fine. She did, like I said, there was no dehydration that could have occurred in that time. I misted her again when I put her in there. I picked her up. She kind of looked at me, and I like looked at her, and she was like, put me back in my home, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna put you back in your home. And then she was pretty active. She kind of like jumped right in her home, ran around for a little bit, and then fell asleep in her cork tube. So it was kind of no harm, no foul, but it's a good lesson to learn for me because I got very, very lucky, right? Like, that's ended a lot worse for a lot of people, and I understand that, and that's why I wanted to tell you guys that don't cut corners. I'm not cutting corners anymore. That could have been a harder lesson to learn than it was. So I did get very lucky. But my game plan, if I did not find her, what I was going to do was I was going to, Saturday night, I was going to sit in this room. I was going to put food out. I was going to put out a cork tube. And I was going to hope that she kind of moseyed around in here at some point and I saw her. The best time for me to find her probably more so would have been between like 6 and 9 o'clock and maybe like 3 to 5 in the morning. You have that midnight window where she may have relaxed a little bit, but the best time for me would have been as it was still a little light in here and she was kind of climbing around somewhere. I've talked to breeders who have gecko got out and they never found it. And like I said, we've been very fortunate. We've never had a gecko get out. There was one time where it was one of our it's probably our second or third baby ever. And we were cleaning their tubs and I was taking out the paper towel to put new paper towel in, shut the tub, folded up that paper towel, threw it in the trash can, moved on to the next tub. 25 minutes later, I see this little thing climbing out of the trash can and I was like, oh God, I just threw away a gecko. So that has happened. That was also a tough lesson to learn too, because it's like, well, just make sure you do a head count before you start cleaning so because I keep clutch mates together, and if you breed, sometimes that both eggs don't make it, so that can happen. And I just thought it was one of our geckos that was a single gecko. That's it. But then, we caught it, and once again, got very lucky. Now, that case is a little different because if I had thrown that gecko away on accident, I don't think I would have noticed. I probably would have a couple weeks later been like, I thought we had 2 here. Maybe not. And then moved on. But we got very lucky with that instance. I got very lucky with this instance. So now what I'm doing is I'm kind of going through them. I'm checking a lot of our screen vents, especially since they're all a little older now. We're going on 8 months on some of these, or 9 months, close to a year on some. I need to make sure that their structural integrity is still intact. I mean, once again, we're just dealing with hot glue here, so it's not like it's concrete or silicone or anything like that. This is hot glue. it's gonna break at some point. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm just making sure everything's structurally sound, and for the most part, everything is. I don't have any other vents or anything that have gone bad, because once again, after hers broke, I checked every single one of them, and we're still solid. That's just what I wanted to talk to you guys about, is how one of my geckos got out. And for you, if it happens to you, you just got to be patient. You got to wait, put out food, put out some cork tube, and just keep your eyes peeled, because that's the only way that you're going to find these geckos. And unfortunately for some of the babies, it doesn't always work out in your favor, and that sucks, and that's a hard reality of it, but it does happen to people, and it's a bummer. So if you like this video, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. The channel's still growing. And the giveaway announcement will be happening soon. We're working some things out, though, in the interim to make it as cool as possible for you guys. The other thing, too, comment down below questions, because I think I want to do a Q&A with Megan about either the reptile business or whatever. So just comment some questions down below. But until next time, guys, stay safe and stay positive.